Welcome to first tutorial for just some instructions in Scratch and demonstrations and ideas for how to build some simple little things. And we're going to start with building, it's going to be the start to a simple little game, but it's something that is common in a lot of different games. And that is the side scroller kind of effect where we have a character on the screen who is walking or making walking motions, and the background is sliding to the left in this case to make it look like that character called Pico is walking. And I just press any key to start on this one, and there we go. We've got him walking along. There's a little bit of a flash on the left side of the screen that I'll try and fix up as we do this, but you can see the background is moving. There's a little hill and there's clouds, and as Pico walks, the background moves along. So how do we get something like that put together? It's actually not too difficult to do. We'll just think of this in terms of different parts of the project and different elements of it. And the first one is we're going to have Pico making the motion for walking. And then we're also going to have a backdrop that is moving over to the left as Pico is making the walking motions. When you put them together, then that's when it looks like he is walking through a landscape of some sort. So stick around and we will take a look at how you build something like that. And here is a brand new project that just got created, but I don't want to use the cat for that one. I want to have a different one that has a better set of costumes for walking. So let's take a look at the sprite library, and there's a few that I like. I like the bear walking. That's cool. But I think I was using Pico in that example, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to go with Pico walking as my example. So to do the walking, and I'll just set this up for when any key gets pressed, that this will happen. Let me make the instruction blocks a little bit bigger. So there you go. I'm going to have this set up so that when any key is pressed, it's going to change the costumes and make it look like it's walking. Because when I look at the costumes for Pico, there's 4 different ones there. And if I just rotate through those, then it is going to look like it's walking. So when any key is pressed, and then let's go to the looks, and I've got switch costume to Pico walk 4, or I could choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. But instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm just going to put next costume. And when I cycle through that, it is going to go to the next costume. And as it does that over and over again, it looks like it's moving. So I'm just going to press a key to make that happen here. So there we go. Pico's doing a little walk, and that's great. But I have to keep tapping the key in order to make that happen. So I'm going to put that into a loop. I'm going to make that a forever loop for now. And now when I press any key, it's going to, well, it looks like Pico's trying to get away from something really scary. So let's put in a little bit of a pause there, and maybe 0.25 seconds looks about right. This is a matter of your judgment, whatever you like. So let's try that. I'm going to press a key, and there you go. Pico's just moving along there. Great. So that is how we get the walk happening. It's just you have some kind of trigger that starts a loop that goes on for however long you need it to. We're going to have it go forever. And next costume, and then wait 0.25 seconds. Next costume, wait 0.25 seconds. You have to make sure it is a sprite that has costumes that will make it look like it is walking when you have them there. Now, that's all there is to that. We're going to have a moving background set up right away. So before we do that, what I want to do is I want to position Pico for where to be when the background shows up, probably about there and a little bit smaller. So I'm going to make the trigger for this setup stuff the flag. So I'm going to have it go to that spot. So let's go to XY of the coordinates where it's at right now. And I'm going to make sure that it is the right size. That looks a little bit too big. So I'm going to set the size to, let's say, 75%. How does that look? Yeah, it looks about right. And I'm also going to make sure, just in case I have anything later on that is going to make it disappear, I'm also going to put in a show. Okay, so when Pico is wherever I click on the flag, Pico goes to the starting spot, sets the size, and it shows up. And then when I press a key, it just starts doing its little walk. Awesome. That's part one. Part two is getting that background moving across, and that is a more challenging part. One thing that when people are looking at this kind of problem, one of the first things they do to figure out about a moving background is they go down to the backdrops for the stage and they go in there and they find one that looks good. It's like, oh, boardwalk, that one looks kind of good. And you can just have it move across the boardwalk. That would be great. So in order to do that, we would have to have that backdrop move across from where it is now over to the left. But when we take a look at the motion blocks for backdrops, there are none. We can't move backdrops. So let me go back, and I'm going to get rid of the boardwalk there. Let me go back to what we started with, and instead of having the moving backdrop as a backdrop on the stage, we're going to have to create a sprite that's going to be the backdrop for us. And we can do that by creating a new sprite. Go down to choose a sprite and click on the paint tool. And there we go. And I've got this one set up already for making this. Let's make that a little bit smaller. And I'm going to just do a ground with a sky for now. I'm not going to add anything to it. Maybe I'll put the clouds up there just so I can have something that looks right. Oops, I need to get the square tool. I'm going for the color green for my grass, which I had from before. And the outline, I want to make sure that the outline has a thickness of 0, so you can adjust the number. Or if you click on the outline color tool and click the red line, that makes it an invisible outline or a clear outline. And so I'm just going to draw a rectangle. I want my rectangle to extend just a little bit past the edges of that white area. That grid area there is going to show us the size of the stage. So when we have a sprite that goes all the way across like this, it extends past the edge of the stage. If I take a look, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to move it. There we go. If I take a look at this, I can see that, yeah, it is extending just a little bit past the edge on the left, the right, and the bottom. That's perfect. And now let's go back out. I want to make a blue sky. Now, just to make sure it's the exact same width and it's going to match up perfectly, I'm going to go to the selection tool. That's the arrow here. And I'm going to click on that green grass. I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to bring that up here, which isn't that great looking right now because if I had green grass and green sky, it wouldn't really look like much. So I'm going to go here and change the color. And for the color, I can play around and make it whatever I want. Now, being blue-green colorblind is not the most useful for choosing colors. So I don't know, what's blue? Is that kind of blue? Make it a little like that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. We'll make it like that. And while I've got that rectangle selected, I'm going to go down to the little handle on the bottom and just pull that down over top. And when I take a look closer in, oh, I can see that the blue square is a little bit off. So I'm going to select it and just use the arrow keys on my keyboard. And that just moves it 1 pixel at a time. And I can get it lined up. So it is just perfect. Absolutely fine. And over on the left-hand side as well, they match up just great. Up top, it extends a little bit past the edge, and down at the bottom extends a little bit past the edge. This is perfect. And maybe the one other thing I'm going to do is add some happy little clouds, and that's going to be a circle. And I want my circle to be white, so bump the saturation down to 0 and the brightness all the way to 100, and that gives us pure white, no outline on it. And I'm going to draw happy little clouds. There we go, like that. How's that look? Oh, maybe a little bit right down there. Great. I'm going to go to the arrow tool and I'm going to click on each of these and hold down the shift key to select all 3 of them. And then I'm going to group it so that now if I select it, I can move all those around at once. So there we go. I'm going to have a cloud on my background. I'm going to do one background and have it move, get that working, and then I will do the other background after we get this first one working. Okay, so this background is going to just start off in the middle of the screen and slide off to the right. So let's go back to the code. And taking a look at the screen, one thing I can see here is that Pico is hidden. Pico's there. Pico is just behind this backdrop because we made it since Pico was brought on there. So what we need to do is, let's get this for the setup, is when it's set up, one thing we are going to do is we are going to move it to the back layer. So under looks, here's when it says go to front layer, but there's a drop down and go to back layer. Let's just check and see how that looks. There we go. Now that the setting is moved to the back layer, we can see Pico. I also want it to be right in the center of the screen, and the coordinates for the center are 0, 0. Perfect. That's exactly where we want it to start off, and there's Pico right there when Pico starts off. If I press the key, still have Pico doing their walk. Okay, and when Pico starts to walk like that, actually let me start that up again. What I want to do is I want to have the background move over to the left without covering Pico up. I want the background to move over to the left. Well, okay, that's easy enough to do. I'll go to my triggers here, and when any key is pressed, I'm going to have it go to the left. Now, left and right are measured with the x value of the coordinates, and up and down are measured with y. You can see the arrows are right there. When we go to the left, the value of x gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So I want to change x, but I want to change it by a negative number because that will make it move to the left. So now when I press any key, it is going to shift the backdrop by -10. So I'll press a key now, and you can see it did move a little bit. Pico's walking away. And if I keep pressing the key over and over again, eventually I get all the way to the left-hand side, and it goes no further. So let me stop that. What do I want to do? I want to have it jump back over to there. Well, first of all, I don't want to have to keep pressing the key over and over again to have it shift all the way over to the left. So that's going to be a repeat loop of some sort. And let's put that in a forever loop for now. And when any key is pressed, it's going to shift over to the left. So let's see how that works. Oh, perfectly smooth. Great. But again, it stops when it gets over here. Where do we want it to go to once it gets here? And how do I know when it's over all the way on the left? When it's over on the left, its x value is -470. The x value is -470. So what I want to do is, if the x value is down in that negative range of -470, I want it to jump back over to the right and start moving again. So let's do that. Let's find out how we do this. Well, there's an if. Okay, there's my if. And what I want to do is I want to see if the x value is really, really low. So I'm going to go to my operators, and I'm going to use a less than. And under motion, I can find the value of the x position right there, and it fits into that first oval. And if it's less than, well, it's -470 there. So I'm going to say if it's less than -465, because it never gets less than 470. So let's give that a try. And then once that happens, we want to have it jump back over to the right. So I guess what we could do, and I'll just try this at first, I'm going to say set x. Why don't we put x back to 0, because that's what it was to start with. Okay, give that a try. Let's get it back in starting position, and here we go. It goes off nicely. Oh, and then it goes back and appears in the middle. But the problem this is going to have is that it's great because I get that background showing up there, but the cloud shows up just right in the middle of the screen. And really, I would want that to be over on this side here and drift in from the right side over to the left. So instead of setting the X to 0, I want to set it farther over to the right. So if it went all the way over to minus 470 on the left, maybe I'll try setting it to, well, positive 465 on the right. Let's take a look and see how that works. Pressing the key and looking great. It goes off the edge, or it appears to, and when it disappears on the left, it shows up on the very, very right. Excellent. Exactly what we want to have happen. So now what we need to do is we need to fill in those gaps in between, and to do that we need another background. Just to make sure that the backgrounds match up for the height of the grass and the sky, I'm going to do a right click and duplicate that sprite. I think I'm going to change the names here. I'm going to call this first one background 1. And this next one I'm going to call background 2. There we go. And for background 2, let me just think about this here. When background 1 starts in the middle, I want background 2 to be over off to the right, just waiting to come on, and it's going to scroll on as background 1 scrolls off. So let's figure out how to do that, and let's change the costume for background 2 because I don't want it to look exactly the same. So let me get rid of the clouds, and I'm going to make a little hill. I can use the dropper tool to go in and make sure that my whatever I make now has the exact same color as the grass there. And if I just make a circle or an oval without an outline like that, and I'll just make a really long one like that, I drag it down there. And now it looks like there's just a little bit of a hill coming up out of the ground there, and that's going to be background 2 is going to have a little bit of a hill. Background 1 is going to have a cloud. Background 2 is going to have the hill. So let's go back to the code. And as I was saying, I don't want it to start off in the middle. I want to start off already over to the right. So I'm going to set the X value for when it starts. I want it to already start over at 465. So where this first one starts in the middle and then it jumps over to an X value of 465, I'm going to have this second one already starting at that X value of 465. Let's see how this works. So get everything set and press key to get things going. And there's my hill and my cloud, and there's my hill and my cloud and my hill and my cloud. And it's kind of repetitive. We'll add some random things later on to make it look a little bit more realistic. But right now, I've got this doing pretty much what the project did that I showed you at the start, which is a moving character, or a character that is changing costumes to look like it's walking. And I have a background that is moving to the left, which makes it look like the character is walking to the right. So if you want to take a look at the code and copy it for yourself, you can go through the video and pause it in the appropriate spot. There is background 1, and there is background 2. And we're going to add to this in the next video, so hopefully you'll come back for that. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed it, then hit the like. Please subscribe, and that will encourage me to put more of these videos out. Hope you're having a great day, and go try some fun stuff in Scratch.